Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story, the U.S. overtakes China for most companies on Fortune's Global 500 list for the first time in 4 years. What's behind the shift? Secretary of State Antony Blinken offering reassurances on the U.S. commitment to the Indo-Pacific region, especially when it comes to China.
It's my belief that that basic approach will continue, irrespective of who's president.
A hefty $800,000 penalty potentially awaits a California energy company executive. The Department of Justice filed a suit against him for allegedly dodging tariffs on Chinese solar panels. And is AI taking over the job market? TikTok seems to think so. The social media company is laying off hundreds of employees globally as it embraces AI technology. The U.S. is clenching the top spot in business again, beating out China on number of companies listed on the Fortune Global 500 list for the first time in 4 years. The list ranks the largest 500 companies around the world by revenue. This year, over 130 U.S. firms made the list, while China has over 120. As for the top 10, U.S. firms on the list are Walmart, Amazon, Apple, United Health Group, Berkshire Hathaway, and CVS Health. China's top 10 firms include State Grid, Sinopec, and China National Petroleum. All of them are state-controlled. Both powers were tied last year. The 2024 shift comes as China's economy remains in bad shape. It's facing a slew of problems, including a prolonged housing crisis and weak consumer demand. For the last 4 years, even though the U.S. had fewer companies on the list than China, they brought in more revenue. That's according to a study from CSIS. Zooming out, Japan is also doing well, coming in at third place consistently over the past 2 decades, trailing behind are Germany, France, and Britain. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is reaffirming Washington's commitment to supporting Southeast Asia. He said the United States' focus has maintained intense focus on the Indo-Pacific region, with an eye on China's aggressive activities in the South China Sea and around Taiwan.
It's because it's so critical to our own future, to the lives and livelihoods of Americans. So given that, it's my belief that that basic approach will continue, irrespective of who's president.
We remain concerned about China's increasingly dangerous and unlawful actions in the South and East China Seas, which have injured people, harmed vessels from ASEAN nations, and contradict commitments to peaceful resolution of disputes. The United States will continue to support freedom of navigation and freedom of overflight in the Indo-Pacific.
Blinken spoke at the summit of Southeast Asian leaders from ASEAN. That's the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Some of these countries have territorial disputes with China, which have resulted in violence. On the other hand, they have close trade relations with China. During this week's summit in Laos, China nearly completed its free trade agreement with these countries, while the U.S. made little progress in this area.
As tensions run high in the South China Sea, global trade is facing risks. The region is an important passageway for international trade. A U.S. government website says over $3 trillion worth of trade passed through the region in 2016, and 40% of all natural gas traded globally in 2017 passed through the waters. The Department of Justice is suing a company executive for evading tariffs on Chinese solar panels.
The company EcoSolargy imported solar panels into the United States. Its executive, Paul Bakum, is accused of making false statements to customs officials to evade tariffs. The tariffs are meant to counter China's oversupply and dumping practices. Examples include solar cells that were classified as LED lights. Or the country of origin was labeled as Turkey instead of China. The DOJ seeks more than $1 million to recover lost revenue on import duties and civil penalties.
The United States has raised tariffs on a wide range of Chinese products in recent years. It's largely because of the extremely low price points on those products, designed to eliminate competition from other countries, or for national security reasons. The Chinese Communist Party is considered the top cybersecurity threat to the United States. Examining the aftermath, lawmakers are trying to figure out the scale of a Chinese breach into 3 top U.S. internet service providers, AT&T, Verizon, and Lumen Technologies. Federal authorities are investigating. The House Select China Committee and Energy Committee sent letters to the 3 companies Thursday, asking when they knew the breaches happened and what they're doing to protect their systems. At stake is a system that these companies use to allow federal authorities to bug targets of investigations under lawful requests. If Chinese hackers get a hold of the information, they would know who the U.S. government is spying on, including Chinese targets. Lawmakers requested a briefing from these companies by the end of next week. TikTok back in the spotlight as more U.S. states taking legal action against the Chinese-owned app. We look at how TikTok gets its information and why it's raising red flags. To discuss, we sat down with Rex Lee, cybersecurity advisor at MySmart Privacy. Rex Lee, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you back on the show.
Thank you for having me on the show, Tiffany.
Now, Rex, lately there's been a lot of information and headlines about, say, OpenAI, ChatGPT, but also TikTok kind of separately. But when it gets into information gathering, how does TikTok get its information? Is it different from, say, OpenAI, ChatGPT, or tell us about that?
Well, each company like Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, Microsoft, Apple, Bytedance, the parent company of TikTok, they all use what are called web scrapers. Go out onto the internet and basically scrape information, unprotected information off of websites. So they call it a web spider. And these spiders go out all over the internet and they collect information. Now, with the advent of AI, what they're doing now is they're collecting all this information to train the AI, which is what Bytedance is doing, the developers of TikTok. But they're using a different technology that's much faster than OpenAI's ChatGPT web crawler, for instance. Their web spiders slow compared to what Bytedance is doing, and considering their AI, this is incredible. It's been reported by Fortune magazine that Bytedance's web crawler is collecting information off the internet at 25 times the rate of OpenAI's ChatGPT.
And with that type of speed in terms of collecting information, what kind of advantage does that offer?
Well, it's not so much the advantage of collecting information much faster. That clearly is an advantage, but there's a lot of cybersecurity threats associated with that. As you know, I collect my industry intelligence from different sources. One of them is Dev Central, and this is where you're going to find cybersecurity professionals, probably some dark web hackers and so forth on these type of sites gathering intel on technology. And a cybersecurity researcher that goes by the handle D. Bamikoff actually discovered this web crawler back in February and posted about it. The bot associated with TikTok has led to what I describe as unintentional DOS attacks. A DOS attack is a denial of service attack. Now, there's a DDoS attack. This is different. A DOS attack shot at one specific website can actually take the website down. Now, he's saying it's unintentional because the web crawler is so fast and that it was hitting the website at a hypersonic speed that it was actually taking the website down while it was collecting information off of the website. They deployed some countermeasures that included an F5 bot defense system, and that didn't even block it as well. And so he went onto this site to see if there were some cybersecurity experts out there who could actually help him. And everybody who looked at it said that they could not help him. What that means is that their technology can be weaponized. So not only can it go to a website and collect information off the website, it could also be weaponized to take down a website of a competitor.
And is there any way to protect against that, or have we not found that yet?
The countermeasures that they're using are pretty high level, like the F5 bot defense system, but these guys haven't been able to stop it. Now, the problem with all of this This goes back to, you've been hearing about the lawsuits regarding artists suing ChatGPT, Alphabet, Meta, all these companies that are training their AI with content collected from the internet. Now, even though your website might be unprotected, you may have copywritten material on there that is protected, and these companies are training their AI on it. I happen to think ethically and legally it's wrong, and I think they're violating copyright. The AI isn't taking the time to create an original work of art. It's using what it's being taught and what it's being fed. And I happen to agree that these they're copyright acts.
Rexley, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
More algorithms, fewer staff. TikTok's parent company is laying off hundreds of employees globally. The reason, the Chinese-owned social media company called Bytedance is shifting its strategy. Instead of relying on humans to keep its platform in check, it's turning to technology for the job.
TikTok is laying off hundreds of employees from its global workforce. The social media giant said Friday it's part of a shift towards a greater use of AI in content moderation. Malaysia is particularly hard hit, as two sources told Reuters more than 700 jobs were slashed in the country. Though Bytedance-owned TikTok later said fewer than 500 employees in Malaysia were affected. The employees were mostly involved in the firm's content moderation operations. TikTok employs a mix of automated detection and human moderators to review content posted on the site. A source said the tech firm also plans more cost reductions next month as it looks to consolidate some of its regional operations. TikTok said it expects to invest $2 billion globally in trust and safety this year and will continue to improve efficiency. It further added 80% of content violating guidelines was now removed by automated technologies.
Coming up, former President Trump appeals to workers in the industrial Midwest with a new economic proposal, saving the Michigan auto industry, how he plans to bring the vision to life. A Chinese man wanted by Beijing since 2020 caught in Indonesia just before boarding a flight to Singapore. He's accused of running a staggering $14 billion investment scam in China.
Then he was wrong to use Indonesia as a transit country or destination country.
Protests in China are on the rise, from frustrations over strict property management rules to unfinished homes. People are speaking out. More on that after the break here on China in Focus. Welcome back to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Former President Trump is vowing to save the U.S. auto industry and revive what he calls the once great city of Detroit. But as he proposes new economic policies, Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign is criticizing Trump's record on creating auto jobs. NTD's Iris Tao has more.
Speaking to about 1,000 people in the Motor City, former President Trump on Thursday proposed a new set of tax incentives and trade protection policies that he said would bring auto jobs back to the U.S.
Today I am announcing a detailed plan to save the American auto industry and bring millions and millions of jobs back to our shores. And you will see a mass exodus of manufacturing jobs, but from Mexico to Michigan, from Shanghai to Sterling Heights.
Specifically, Trump announced a proposal to make interest on car loans fully deductible. That, he said, would stimulate domestic car production and make cars more affordable. He also vowed to give large tax breaks for car makers who build their factories and do research and development domestically. That's in addition to his previous proposals of lowering corporate tax rate to 15% for those who make their product in the U.S. and to use heavy tariffs to stop China from exporting its cars to the U.S.
They're going to pay a 100% or maybe even a 200% tariff because we're not going to let them come in to our country and destroy what's left of our auto industry.
But Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign took aim at Trump's trade policies in a press call before Trump's event. In the call, the president of the United Auto Workers said there was a loss of auto jobs in Michigan during Trump years, and that Trump would cost more jobs if he becomes the president.
When he was president, as I said, he was a job killer in chief because he is a champion of corporate greed. Plant closures are exactly what Trump is threatening with his plan to roll back tens of billions of dollars of investment in American manufacturing jobs.
And on Friday, Trump's holding rallies in Aurora, Colorado and Reno, Nevada. Reporting by Iris Tao, NTD News.
Trouble is mounting for Temu. The European Union is pressing the Chinese online shopping giant on what steps it's taking to stop traders from selling illegal products on its platform. Temu has 10 days to provide that information. Elsewhere, Indonesia is asking Google and Apple to block Temu's app in the country. Authorities said the request aims to protect millions of small businesses from unhealthy competition driven by Temu. Indonesia would also block Temu from investing in local e-commerce. Over in the U.S., the state of Arkansas is suing the company, alleging that its app is malware disguised as a shopping platform. Arkansas accuses Temu of collecting users' fingerprints, text messages, and camera access, then selling that data for profit. Indonesian authorities Thursday said they have arrested a man who's been on Beijing's wanted list since 2020. The suspect, known only by the initials LQ, is accused of helping to run a $14 billion investment scam in China. He was caught on October 1st in Bali, stopped just before he boarded a flight to Singapore. Authorities said he had entered Indonesia using a Turkish passport, but officers were able to identify him using facial recognition.
Then he was wrong to use Indonesia as a transit country or destination country, because now it is getting tighter, because the relationship between immigration and Interpol Indonesia is getting tighter. So don't use Indonesia as a destination country for escape or transit.
Indonesian authorities have been stepping up efforts to detain and deport people wanted by other countries. Just last month, they arrested Alice Guo, a fugitive former mayor wanted in the Philippines for her alleged ties to Chinese criminal networks. She was sent back to the Philippines in September. Mass protests have become more widespread than ever in China, but the regime's information censorship blackout means few reports reach overseas social media. More on how people across China are standing up to defend their rights. On Tuesday evening, hundreds of homeowners in a large residential complex in China's Shandong province surrounded a local police station. They demanded the release of homeowners who had been arrested earlier. Tensions escalated earlier that day when the property management installed a barrier and blocked residents who hadn't purchased parking spaces from entering the complex. This prompted a protest at the entrance to the property. Several homeowners were later taken into custody by police. The incident follows 2 years of escalating discontent. Residents have staged multiple protests in that time against the management's forced sale of parking spaces and high parking fees. According to one resident's social media post, management has also cut off water, electricity, and elevator access and blocked fire lanes at times. Also on Tuesday, would-be homeowners protested outside another community complex in Sichuan province. Development of the property has been left unfinished, affecting more than 300 families who prepaid for the housing. Some shared details about the situation online, but their social media posts were deleted. A video posted online showed them gathering to advocate for their rights when police intervened. A slowdown for German luxury automakers in the world's largest car market, China. Here's why.
BMW and Mercedes have reported a crash in its third quarter sales. BMW down 13% and Mercedes down 3%. Foreign car makers are facing stiff competition from local brands offering cheaper models, especially EVs, that is. Demand in general in China is suffering from a sluggish economy. European automakers are also in the middle of trade tensions. The EU has imposed hefty tariffs on Chinese-made EVs. And in response, China is considering tariff hikes on large engine vehicle imports, which would impact German producers in particular.
Volkswagen is also facing headwinds. The automaker on Friday reported a 7% drop in global deliveries for the third quarter. Volkswagen had to cut its annual outlook for the second time in just 3 months. Zooming out, the European car industry is grappling with weak demand from China and soaring production costs back home. Automakers also have to contend with the impact of a potential trade war between Beijing and the European Union. Chinese electric car maker BYD announced an ambitious plan on Tuesday. The company aims to sell 50,000 electric vehicles in Mexico this year and 100,000 by 2025.
BYD's Mexican director said the carmaker will announce the location of its first factory in Mexico by the end of this year. The factory will produce 150,000 vehicles in its first phase and another 150,000 in the second phase. Meanwhile, BYD is asking the Mexican government to extend tariff relief for electric vehicle imports. Last week, U.S. lawmakers raised national security concerns about Chinese-made vehicles entering the U.S. through Mexico. About 20 Democrats in Congress are urging a Mexican president-elect to take action. Lawmakers pointed out that Chinese automakers could use Mexico as a base to enter the U.S. market and avoid tariffs. Modern cars and trucks have internet access that lets them share data with devices inside and outside the vehicle. This means Chinese-made cars could send information they gather on American roads back to manufacturers in China. Lawmakers warned that if Beijing were to control that data, it could threaten American national security. This month, President Biden raised tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles to 100%. In late September, he proposed banning Chinese software and hardware in connected vehicles on American roads.
That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Coming up on NTD, stay tuned for America's Hope with Kelly Wright. Tonight, a discussion on the importance of political involvement, especially for people of faith. Authors Lindsay Cormack and Terry Hasdorf discuss the significance of voting and civic engagement. Cormack, the author of How to Raise a Citizen, talks about motivating people to participate in the upcoming election. Terry Hasdorf, author of the best-selling book Running into the Fire, shares her perspective on why Christians should get involved in politics. That's tonight at 10 p.m. after China in Focus. Thanks for watching. See you soon.